Hi, everybody. All right, I'm super excited to be here. My name's Kyle Porter, and I'm the founder and CEO of SalesLoft, and this has been an awesome couple days here. I've met so many really bright SaaS people, and I'm just motivated and inspired by all of you, so hopefully we can learn a few things today and get you back to the conference. You know, what I'm going to talk about today, SalesLoft has been on a wild journey over the last few years. So many people have shared metrics and been transparent up here. One of the things that kind of from our growth story is we grew from 200K to 15 million ARR in a 30-month period of time, under 30-month period of time. But really the big takeaway from this journey has been all the interactions with amazing sales leaders at these companies. And so I want to talk about some of that stuff today. And I'm going to start with a personal story. In addition to being the SaaS CEO of SalesLoft, we've got 180 people in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm also a Tangerine farmer, and I'm clicking this button and nothing's happening. So I'm going to try one more time. Click. And there's a picture of me in a tangerine farm. There we go. Okay, so this is our tangerine farm. On the right side is my daughter, Brooklyn. We're located in Central Florida, and one of our favorite things to do is to take Brooklyn, load her up in the four-wheeler, and go pick tangerines. And one day while we were picking tangerines, we went by the south side of the farm, and we ran into Geronimo and Trooper. These are our horse neighbors to the south side. And I introduced Brooklyn to these horses, and she just fell in love with them. It was unbelievable. If you've ever seen a little girl and horses, it's just a sight to see. So the next day, we went to pick tangerines, and I drove her right back to where the horses were the same day, but they weren't there. And I looked out far to the other end of the field, about 100 meters. Normally I would say yards. And I saw the horses on the other end of the field. So I start yelling, "Hey, horses, come here." I'm throwing tangerines. I'm doing anything I can to get these horses to come to me. And my daughter, of course, is in the back going, "Daddy, please get the horses to come to us." And I'm like, I'm about to die. I gotta do this for my daughter, right? So in a moment of desperation, I pull my phone out, and I go to the App Store, and I type in horse sounds. You wouldn't believe it. There's an app for horse sounds. So I take my phone, and I cup it, and I hit the button that says sound 1. The horses didn't come, though, but they looked up at me, and I made eye contact with the horse. So I hit the next button, horse sound 2. And the horses started to walk my way, but not quick enough. So I hit horse sound 3. And what happened was incredible. These horses came running over to us. And they came all the way up. And I put Brooklyn's hand over, and we petted him. And I realized in that moment that this technology had just brought one of the greatest emotional humanity experiences to my life. And this is the first lesson that I've learned from technology leaders around the world, is that we have the opportunity to do this with our technology and for our customers. It's a dad win. And I want all of you to experience the same thing from a sales perspective. So, what does that story have to do with sales? You know, I've been around this conference this week, and I've got a little scared because people are afraid of sales a little more than I would have expected. They think there's something wrong with it. But if you talk to these companies that have scaled to 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, what you'll find is that sales enabled them to invent things, to innovate and bring products to market. Sales enabled them to hire people who went home and fed their family with the money from that job. They gave back to communities. They built up markets. They built up economies. Right? Sales is the lifeblood of how business world operates and how the world in general operates. And we need to change our mindset to think this way. But selling is harder than it's ever been before. You know, buyers are changing rapidly on us. They're inundated with data and information, and sellers around the world the activities have just gone through the roof, and it's harder and harder and harder to get through to our buyers. But we're going to do that. And so we're going to do that by transforming our teams into being modern sales organizations. And I'm going to give you the formula that we've learned from so many great sellers. It's this: sincerity and scale. Let's break it down. This is the part that you'd hear from any sales technology vendor, any vendor in SaaS that's trying to automate things, make them more scalable. Sales has to be repeatable. It has to be steeped in process. You have to be able to onboard 10 reps, deploy that process, and let them go. Right? This is a fundamental element. And soon we'll see AI in sales. But the purpose of AI is not to replace sales. It's to bring more humanity to the sales experience. And that's really the irony of AI, is that great technology enables us to connect with people, the other side of the equation. Human, empathetic, one-to-one, understanding. Buyers want to know that you connect with them, understand their challenges, and can serve up insights that can drive them to solve those problems. It's really the head and the heart of a business. And that's how it translates to sales. Someone said that as a seller, we need to think like an engineer and feel like an artist. And that's the formula. Jeff Bezos, one of my heroes, he's often asked, what's going to change in the next 10 years? And then he replies, that's not as important as what's not going to change in the next 10 years. So I asked myself, what have I learned from sales leaders around the world? What's not going to change in the next 10 years in sales? And here's a list of 5 things. 1, truly caring, truly understanding is going to win, right? I've seen a few talks here today and yesterday, and the ones I've loved the most is when people just drive in to understanding your customers and the problems they're faced with. 2, we have an opportunity to automate a lot of manual tasks. In sales, it might be all the logging of activities in Salesforce. It might be who to call next. It might be determining information, news, intelligence about your prospects and customers, right? We want to take all the things that salespeople hate to do and automate them so they can do the things they love to do, which is connect with their buyers, their prospects, and customers. And that emotional component just can't be replaced by robots. Next is when we establish brand, when we establish a reputation for serving and delighting our customers, that adds legitimacy to sales. And then last is it's always going to be a competitive environment. So we need to keep moving the needle forward on how we get better and better and better at modernizing our environments. All right, here's a few things we've learned. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because most of you are modern enough to know that when you want your customers and prospects to receive an email from you, it's better to send it through your own server than to send it through a transactional email server. Spam filters are more sophisticated than ever before, and they know when something's gone through a bulk transactional server. And so the best sellers in the world are tying their messages in to their own email servers so that when they send those out, they get delivered to the recipient, they get understood as real email from a real person versus robotic and automated. This improves deliverability, and it improves the way that the customer experiences your interaction. An integrated workflow. There's more sales tools and marketing tools than ever before. And I swear, they pop up like crazy, right? And some of them are really, really good at special things. And so if you're thinking about where your business is today and where you want to go, there's no chance that there won't be a new technology that will help you out in that environment. And what you need to do is get really, 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 really good at injecting new technologies into the workflow that you already have in place versus having people jump from app to app to app and break up the experience. The best sellers in the world take their best game plan, their go-to-market strategy. Who are we selling to? What's the messaging? Which reps are selling to which types of customers and prospects? They take all of that game plan and they codify it. They codify it in a system that then deploys to their end users so that when the rep logs in the morning to Salesforce and other systems, they see all the things they need to do, the calls, the emails, the social touch points. It's a way of organizing your go-to-market. And we're not just the only people that do this. There's other companies that are helping codify this workflow. But taking that go-to-market and putting it in a system. And then what you're looking at is taking the data that comes from it and improving that cycle over and over and over again so that you're always tweaking and always creating the best sales experience. The last one is understanding that your folks, sorry, I just looked down at the questions. You don't get to see them, but there's a funny one in there. Your folks need to connect with your buyer, but they always need to be improving on how they communicate with the buyer. And so we're seeing great environments now where sales coaches and marketing coaches are able to sit in and understand how their reps are, what the reps are having conversations about, what they're interacting on, how they're solving problems for their customers, and monitor that real time so they can add significant value. And then the biggest story of sales and marketing that's going on right now is this idea of account-based. I talked to a few folks this week, and they're all struggling on figuring out how do we deploy a targeted sales, a targeted sales campaign to where we identify the right accounts that are right for us, deploy those to our team so that we're running the right cadence of activities on those accounts. And really what we're seeing is taking the accounts that you love, that you want to be your customers, and breaking them into 3 tiers. The top tier is the ones that, not just the ones you think you can close, and not just the ones you wish you would close, but the ones that have the perfect blend of those 2 things. So your top tier is the ones you want, plus you think you can get. The second one is maybe they're not as matched up as well to your ICP as possible. I've heard the term MCP, ICP meaning ideal customer profile, MCP being minimal client profile, and using a little bit of a less personalized approach to those. And then a third tier, which is almost like target practice. You're exploring a new market, you're exploring a new type of account. So now you have 3 tiers of targeted accounts. You take those first accounts, deploy them to your reps with messaging around personalized emails, phone calls, social touch points, marketing campaigns, invitations to events, swag sends. We even, for our top target accounts, have sent over food trucks to our customers. We actually did it after they became clients. But after they become clients, you're still doing account-based selling because we want them to be our clients for 5, 10, 15, 20, forever, right? And so there's all kinds of things you can do to that first tier. And the second tier, maybe they just get emails and phone calls and maybe some social activity. The third tier might just only get emails, and they might be more automated than before. And then running that all in a process that allows you to measure engagement by account. It allows you to measure which ones you're most successful with, and then tweak the dial so that you can get better and better over time. And so really in sales, I think what we have to do is we have to figure out how do we bring this human component of understanding, of empathy, of connecting with your buyer, knowing the challenges they're faced with, making hypothesis of the things that they're probably struggling with right now, having unique insights that help deliver value to those challenges, and being the vendor of record, being the vendor that's most suited to solve those challenges and problems for them, but then put it in a process that you can turn on and let go. Put it in a process that you can count on to be repeatable. You can count on to spin out data and information so that you can get better and better and better over time. One of the guys that spoke here yesterday was Stephen Brody from MuleSoft. Had a great talk, and one of the things I love about Stephen is I watch how he hires and onboards people. In San Francisco, in the subway, they have MuleSoft advertisements just saying we're hiring salespeople because they're just bringing the best folks on board. But what they've done is they've created this scientific go-to-market plan to when a cohort of new reps comes in, boom, they hit a button and they deploy that process to those reps. And then they come in day 1 of training, and Stephen says, now let's talk to you about how to connect with the buyer. Let's train you on how to be personal, how to be customized, how to connect with them in a human-to-human level. I mean, how many of you get these emails? And they're terrible. Even the ones that look like they've been personalized a little bit. I don't call it personalized, by the way, when it's hey, first name at company. That's templatized, right? There's a lot of systems that will templatize things. But how do you dive in and say something that means something to the buyer, to when they read it, they say, actually, I'm going to spend a little time connecting with this person. I've got a little time, and I'll tell you my favorite cold call story. In an engagement in sales, in that first interaction, The thing that you want to do more than anything is you want to come across as unique. You want to plant the seed that maybe this person has something for me because most of them don't, right? And I get this call, and I answer the calls the same exact way every time, Kyle Porter. And most of the time when it's a salesperson, they say, hey, I'm so-and-so with such and such about this thing. And I reply back, great, you caught me in the middle of something, because I'm always in the middle of something. Why don't you shoot me an email, kyle@salesloft.com. And the person on the other end of the line shocked me. His response was, are you sure you want to do that? And immediately I lost all confidence, because I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure that if I hung up that phone, it would have been the right thing for me to do. And so, but I had to fight back a little bit. I said, excuse me? And he goes, are you sure you want to push me off to email? And I'm like, no, I'm not. What do you got? Let's listen. And he was a smart person, and he had confidence, and he believed he could solve my problems. And that brings up my favorite quote in sales. And if you're writing anything down or taking notes, this is the one I suggest, is that our industry, it just requires fundamental belief in yourself, in your company, and in your offering. And then all that sales is taking that belief and transferring it to someone else. And if you do it the right way, you can hit them emotionally, you can hit them on the revenue line, you can hit them where it matters to their business, and you can delight them. And when you do it, you'll have the best product, and you'll have the best customers, and you'll be the best place to work. And you'll make people smile. Thanks so much. All right, can we bring up the questions, please? That's the one that made me laugh. Yeah, they are technically SalesLoft shoes. They're little logo shoes. They're fun. We can scratch that one out. What makes you different from other providers in this category? That's a fantastic question, and that's a question that I encourage everybody to spend a lot of time answering for themselves. You know, whenever we get this question, first of all, you don't want to answer that question until you get to the evaluation stage of a buyer making a purchase decision. Early on, what you want to do is be vendor agnostic. You want to understand their pains, you want to provide insights that solve their problems, and you want to do it from a solution-oriented perspective. The worst thing in the world you can do as a salesperson is to raise your hand and say, I'm Kyle from SalesLoft, and we help you do X, Y, and Z, and we can get you from A to B in no time, and we're different from the other people because of, like, that's just a recipe for failure. The best way to sell is to say, hey, I'd like to learn a little bit more about your business so I can add value. Tell me about your goals for this. Okay. What about that? What if this happened? Okay. Well, have you tried this and have you tried that? Well, if you tried this and went there, what would happen here? That's how you sell. You don't sell by speaking out about who you are and what you do. But when you get to the stage in the buying cycle where they said, okay, we want to buy this category. We're ready. We know it's going to solve the problem. We're aligned on that. Now we've got to choose a vendor, and it's that selection period. This is when you need to be able to answer this question. And the way we always answer it for our buyers, it always starts off very fluffy. If the thing that differentiates you is a feature, then that doesn't differentiate you because anybody can build a feature, right? And it sounds fluffy, but the thing that makes us different than any other company in the world of sales engagement is the attitude that we have about how you should interact with your buyer. The fact that we're not just building software to help you engage with your buyer or to help you use something to connect. We're building software that helps you make an impact on someone else. And what is that impact that your sellers, are your sellers making people smile? Are they making people think, maybe they can help me? Are you making people realize, whoa, I didn't know I had that problem? And when you're doing that, you're bringing delight to the seller, and that's what I'm focused on. I'm not just focused on customer experience. I'm focused on my customer's customer experience. And so it starts there for SalesLoft, and what that leads down is a path of understanding sales, of understanding that blend of science and sincerity, and then communicating that in a way that says, and here's why we built X, and here's why this exists, and here's why this thing is different than that thing. And so I think that's the best formula for differentiation. Isn't there a fundamental difference in the sales process in the US and EU? US buyers are more likely to embrace the sales process. Do you see this? We've seen it a little bit. I think we had a dinner conversation last night about companies moving either west to US or companies moving east to Europe. And what we found was most people that had already done it. This is companies like companies that had moved, Showpad that had moved to the US, and companies like Gainsight that had moved to Europe. Most folks said that at the very beginning, they got all these symbols back that it was different. But then over time, it became more and more and more similar. Companies want to solve their problems, and if you can connect with them in a way that helps them identify what those challenges are and feel confident that they can solve them, that's sales, right? So sales process is just figuring out how to do that. And sure, you might have some nuances in, opening a cold call this way, or sending an email with this thing, or sending an email to this type of person. There's a bunch of those nuances, but I'd encourage folks in the European market here to figure out kind of those nuances themselves and just roll with this strategy of if you're serving and delighting your customer and solving problems for them, then they're going to be happy with you, and you just got to figure out and navigate how to get there. Okay. What process do you recommend to a SaaS company founder who has zero sales expertise and wants to build an effective sales team? So my recommendation there is you figure out how to sell as fast as you can. I had zero product and engineering expertise when I started SalesLoft, so I'm the exact opposite of this person. What did I do? Tried, fell on my face, hired people, fell on my face, read a bunch of books and blogs, hired people that understood it, learned from them, and then hired someone better than me. So that's really the formula that I'd recommend, is eventually it leads down to find someone that can sell, but you gotta dig in and learn some throughout the process so you'll know whether that person is right, whether they do fit the culture, whether they do fit your marketplace. Okay, so we're running out of time. Time's up. I'll stand here and answer any other questions, and really, really appreciate all of you coming and listening to me. Hope you have a great rest of the conference, and thank you so much.